Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Astral Stew.
Oh, you didn't sing it this time?
I didn't.
Sorry.
I thought because you're annoyed by it.
I was waiting for Astral, Astral, Astral Stew.
Well, there you go. You did it for us. Thank you.
Hey, and we were recording. Yeah, we'll just use that.
We'll just use that over and over and over again.
You are welcome.
What's those?
What do we call our fans? Stew vegetables?
Stuvians?
Stuvians. Oh, I like that.
Stuvians. Yeah. Or Stuvusions.
Nope, Stuvians.
Stuvians. Okay.
We're there. It's already a winner. Well, welcome back, fellow Stuvians. Welcome to the stew. We are hot and steamy this evening.
It is chunky and beefy tonight.
Do you guys dip bread in your stew, or do you do biscuits or cornbread?
Isn't it all bread? Isn't it all bread at the end of the day?
Why am I offended by that answer?
Is cornbread bread? I mean, I know it's got bread in the name, but it's not like bread.
I mean, I guess
taco's a sandwich, so.
I mean, I guess it depends on what kind of stew, because if it's got any vegetables in it, I'm not eating it. But if it's beef and potatoes, I'm in. And then,
or if I made the stew and tricked you into eating the vegetables because I put them in a blender.
This is true. This happened with pot pie one time. I got tricked.
It's not a stew at that point. It's a puree.
It's why no one else can make my chicken and dumplings.
I know. Thank you for keeping me healthy, sir.
So if you're
like a dog and a pill and cheese.
Yep.
We put it in a hot dog, right? So,
I'm alive today because of this man.
So anyways, welcome back to another
episode
episode of Astral Stew, Stuvians with the Cornbreadians. And tonight we're going to be talking about a number of things. We're gonna lead off with the topic, which is gonna morph into another topic, which is gonna blend into another topic.
Then
thus making it
puree.
like a stew, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
there you go.
Just fold it in.
Fold it in. It's like a stew pocket, right?
I've had that before. It takes ages to clear up.
Yeah, I'm glad you got it checked out. I think that this can already start our first topic, which was Santosh's, because my imagination is already running wild right now because of the stew pocket. So what was your you were talking about?
Introduce.
If I may, then so everyone is pretty aware of like the concept of a collective conscience, right? Like and that made me wonder, do we perhaps share in a collective imagination?
Immediately, the improviser in me says yes. Is that not what essentially group mind kind of is in improv? I mean, so in improv, we teach everyone, hey, you got to use your imagination muscle, right? And then allow us to kind of see the same thing. And the rules that we use to create a scene allows the audience to essentially improvise with us and see what we're seeing. Though I'm sure it's different because everyone has their own mind flavor.
And
so
would that then also be a more mundane level of the astral? Because when we're getting together and collectively imagining through ritual and energetic work, isn't that carving out new space in the astral?
So let me ask this question maybe a little differently.
You can get to answer his though.
Sorry, go ahead and answer it.
Maybe.
I like that you leaned in like you were talking into a mic, but the mic's on your face.
I've missed you both. Oh.
All right. Are we sharing a collective imagination, I think is what you're asking, or does there exist a collective imagination that we're all pulling from? Meaning, are we contributing all to the same imagination, or are we pulling it from somewhere?
I call that the thought pool. Because think about thoughts that come through and then somebody else has your thought because you didn't honor it and keep it and manifest it like you were supposed to.
That's called imposter syndrome.
Imposter syndrome?
When you have an idea, but somebody pulls it first and you think that they stole it and yep.
That's not what imposter syndrome is.
That's not what imposter syndrome is.
Love you so much, but that is so incorrect.
I'm gonna Wikipedia while you guys chit chat.
Anyways, so a thought pool right? So and now you're saying thought pool, Pull or Pool? Okay.
You can pull from the
Yeah.
pool.
Yeah.
Don't poop in it.
But don't. Well, some people shit all up in it.
But yeah, so it makes me think about something too, that on Fearscape podcast a few months back we had John E.L. Tenney, and he was talking about the internet really just being a collection of our consciousness. It's more like a psychic internet. That's why you can have a thought about something, and the next thing you know, you get an ad on your phone, or it starts trending on Twitter or something like that, because it's all of our psychic energy feeding into the internet. And so it seems like a lot of imagination is in play there in the internet. And so maybe it's not, necessarily consciousness and imagination. Maybe it's all one big humbo jumbo stew type event.
Humbo jumbo.
Yeah.
Well, damn it. I crossed my fingers to remember my thought and I lost it.
Well, I will say then that made me immediately think of the Matrix. I'm like, is it because we're all tied into a central network and feeding synapses that it can, is the internet similarly the same thing?
Yeah.
It's treating the imagination like its own plane, like the astral plane, the imagination plane.
Well, if you listen to a Figment, the Imagination Dragon, then it is.
Yeah. I mean, for example, I was at my sister's this past weekend, and my brother-in-law was like, oh, hey, I don't want to say the name of this thing because they're definitely not a sponsor.
Just call him your brother-in-law.
But anyways, he's trying to show my sister like, oh, hey, look at this cool thing. I saw this ad on Facebook and you can get this stuff. It's pretty neat. And he's just showing her, and it had like these pagan books. And I was like, oh, that's really, really neat. And I had never heard of this in my life. And he never even mentioned the name. Okay, this is key. He never even mentioned the name. By the way, he's on Wi-Fi. I'm on data. So it's not like this was going through the Wi-Fi here. Within 5 minutes, I'm scrolling through Facebook and there's an ad for that thing he was talking about. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
I was just talking.
I didn't even mention it because I understand that our phones are picking up our words and Google, all that stuff. But like, I didn't say a word.
Both things are kind of disturbing when you think about it, because either one, we're being monitored much more than we realize. I mean, that is true. We know that that's happening as well. But where did I get this from? What was the Netflix documentary where they were talking about all this stuff? Oh my God. I've just talked my way out of the damn thought. Say what you said again.
That I thought that I just read what he saw. I never said
that it's either listening to you or that you're just that fucking predictable to AI. Like AI is so advanced now, the different ones, there's not just one, but the different ones are so advanced that they can predict. That's a prediction of what's going on. It's just crazy. They're that good, and but both are frightening.
Yeah.
Well, and Jeff had said
friendships and so on.
Well,
so
Jeff's not on Facebook, by the way. Jeff's not on Facebook. So he had just come across this on his own. And I've seen other things similar like it in the past and things like that, but never this one. But he says, oh yeah, I've been on it for months now and blah, blah. So I never even heard of it. And like I said, he never said it out loud. I just happened to be over his shoulder reading it. And I go and sit down and I'm just scrolling and boom, there it is.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like something along the same line. One day, I think I was typing to you and the theologian, and I made some kind of comment saying, Tosh, you're going to laugh when I say this, but I made some kind of comment about Christianity. About Christianity. And Alexa popped up with a recommendation for some Christian movie. Like I typed it in Facebook Messenger, and within 30 seconds, Alexa had a recommendation for me.
My girl.
So,
I mean, they are listening. The whole data wars and everything, like us not knowing what value our attention actually had until these current days, right?
But to swing it back to the collective imagination, I mean, is that the root of religion? I mean, isn't that essentially what a community was was imagining these gods together, and these rituals and all of these things. If we look at it from a scientific viewpoint, where they had that group, did they see it all the same? You know, and then I think about one of the things, like astrally, that everyone talks about are the Akashic Records, right? I've been there. I've been in the library, but does it look the same to me as it does to you?
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, and so
I take people there via hypnosis, and
Mhm.
generally it produces fun results.
It's just interesting. It's like, is that a collective imagination, or is it along that lines of you see how you can perceive it based off your experience?
Could it not be an extension of group mind though? Group mind
Mhm.
is the act of creating it, but then you are then participating in a collective imagination, like kids playing and everything.
is
Or like
all
the creepypasta universe.
Yeah.
It-
Yeah.
is all perceived intention just imagination?
Or intuition.
Intuition. I want to jump back that creepypasta. Like, I never thought about that. Creepypasta is really, really interesting because we as a collective are building mythos together constantly, and it grows bigger and bigger. It's the closest thing to a religion being created without being a religion, right? Like, though some would say different, but yeah, it's interesting. Everyone adds their own piece by sharing stories. And I mean, that's essentially what the Bible was, right? It was just stories passed down originally as somebody wrote down. Is that creepypasta? Here's people sharing their own stories of things and building this universe.
We need the Astral Stew SCP.
Yes.
A prime example of that, right, is the topic we just covered across the 3 pods, Slender Man, because Slender Man as a cryptid did not exist prior to its creation
under that name.
There were other cryptids that were similar in form and shape, but Slender Man as its own cryptid did not exist prior to its creation as a part of it.
I mean, the same thing. Look at Superman. I mean, so many people have built that mythos. I mean, the closest thing to creepypasta I can think of is old school message board fanfic. You know, when they used to do like the slashies or different things like that, Star Trek being a big one, and they would just continue to create these and it still happens with fan films and things like that. So,
or of course, then you get sued by
right,
Paramount.
Disney and Paramount, and everyone's just like, let us do the creating here.
Right.
So, but yeah, anyways, I don't know. I think it's possible. I think that's how I mean, because you think about it, like architecture that started as an imagination. Somebody's like, I want to build something. How do we do this?
I guess what I'm having trouble separating is the separation between imagination and consciousness. For me, it's all the same thing.
Well, consciousness to me is a noun, whereas imagination is more of a verb. Like, to me, it's like you're imagining something. It's happening within the consciousness, whereas consciousness is just it is the great I am, to use a religious term for you, Josh.
According to Patanjali, imagination is a modification of the mind.
Like that. And
something to be stopped, according to some people. I don't agree with that Vertes need to be stopped.
I would imagine that those people watching this probably have an opinion. So if you have an opinion, drop it in the comments below. Don't forget
after you like, comment, and subscribe.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I just decided to look up imagination on Wikipedia, and the first thing it says is it is the ability to produce and simulate novel objects, sensations, and ideas in the mind without any immediate input of the senses. It is also described as the forming of experiences in one's mind, which can be recreations of past experiences, such as vivid memories with imagined changes, or they can be completely invented and possibly fantastic scenes. Imagination helps make knowledge applicable and solving problems, and is fundamental to integrating experience and the learning process. It is a basic training for imagination is listening to storytelling, in which the exactness of the chosen words is the fundamental factor to evoke worlds.
So to take it one step further, if you imagine a possibility, does the imagining of that possibility make it a probability of that it will come true?
It takes it out of the realm of non-existence and puts it into
Right.
existence if it can be thought of.
And then if it's all really about intention, can you manifest then that imaginated thing?
I don't know.
From conception to completion is an interesting process, especially as an artist.
Yeah, and there's a book or something that I read one time that talked about all the stories and all the characters that never got completed, or that just kind of popped into mind, all existed in this realm together. And they were like almost like the island of misfit toys.
You just reminded me of, what is it? It's not Yarun and the Sea of Stories.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of, but it's not exactly that. But I've always been trying to remember the name of that. I've been trying to remember the name of that book that you're talking about forever, the Sea of Stories thing. But yeah, it's a similar thing, but yeah, they all exist there, and it's almost like the island of misfit toys. And so people are able to access them. People that are like pretty analytical and don't have like great imagination skills, they can unlock things that have already existed.
And so that's a to kind of, I guess, maybe close out the shared imagination piece. How do you explain people who seemingly have no imagination? Because I have met people that just can't,
just like tone deaf people.
Yeah. Yes. I don't know. Does anybody really not have imagination? I mean, or do we have a scale that says you have to think this much to have an imagination?
Well, I'm about to get on a soapbox, and how many people think they can't visualize because they're trying to compare it to what their actual eyes do and expecting that to go on the inside, and actually visualizing the whole damn time, but won't allow themselves to call it that or even believe that they're doing it because it's not the same as looking with your eyeballs.
That was me when I first started.
How dare you?
And you're, of the three of us, are the most analytical brained in the bunch, and you have come a long way. But yeah, it's exactly
so have your lips.
I know. But that's exactly what I have to teach in improv. It's the same thing. I have to fight people to imagine, and they're like, but it's not here. And I'm like, I know it's not here. I just want you to pretend. Well, that's what a kid does. Okay, we still have that ability, and I want you to just try it.
So maybe it's like you mentioned before about synapses, right? So maybe it's one of those things where, in order to tap in to the shared pool of imagination, you have to develop the synapses or the pathway to be able to connect to that and pull from it. The people who have limited imagination can't develop that or haven't put the effort towards developing.
I would say,
or maybe they didn't go through the trauma that was necessary to develop a sense of escapism for survival's sake.
True.
Maybe. Again, and that's where I'm saying, is this much imagination mean because this person has this much imagination mean they're not good at imagining, right? That's my question, because I said I haven't met a kid that couldn't imagine, so you have, it's built into us. It's just that the trauma could have stopped us from imagining as well.
So one of the there's an exercise that my kids do it in a class, and they give them a piece of paper with a random shape on it and say, using this shape as the starting point, draw me a picture. And they might like a half circle, so then some kids will go full on elaborate, like it's a moon rising up over a planet and there's people on the surface and blah blah blah, and other kids will draw the other half of the circle and make it a pizza. So in my opinion, the kids that are just doing the pizza, they still have an imagination. They still saw the potentiality of it being a pizza.
Mm-hmm.
But then, to your point, Stefan, it's maybe a scale. So then there's the other side of the imagination scale where the kid saw an entire new world from a half circle.
Right. Well, it's just like, I get, what do you hear? I just wish I could improvise like you. And I'm like, you can. Are you talking about improvising, or are you talking about just being funny? Those are different words. It's like, I find humor in things. That's part of my gift. But do you want to improvise? I can teach you to improvise like me and think fast and react and listen, because those are tools. You know, everyone can do that. So, you know, it's like a UFO. You have to really narrow down the question. What are you trying to ask here?
So let me redo the question just a little bit, and rather not, is there a collective imagination, but more, does the collective imagination exist separately from all of these other collective
Right.
conscious?
I think so. It's kind of fun. It almost makes
states.
me feel like it's all these different worlds. And as a segue into our next topic, it reminds me of what dreams may come.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like how much of that afterlife that he was visiting
Such a good segue for this.
How much of that was separate realms of consciousness? How much of it was the astral plane? How much it was imagination?
And how much one's ability to imagine affects the construction of one's afterlife.
Yes. I mean, because that was a collective there. I mean, he was able to go into others. I mean, he found the one where his wife was in hell, you know, like her own hell. Like,
and how much of that did he never leave his own mind?
Yeah. Well, and that is, I mean, and so the next time we were talking about is just afterlife in general. I mean, you know, is there an afterlife, or is the afterlife legit just the fucking 5 minutes after your body dies that your brain is still alive, showing you and making you feel good, and basically the final dream?
Yeah. So I have recently finished, or I've got like 20 minutes left in an Audible book. The book by Leslie Kean, which is Surviving Death. It's the book that the Netflix miniseries was based off of. But the Netflix
I didn't realize that was Leslie Kean.
Yeah.
I thought they were two different things.
No, she's in it. She's in the Netflix one. She's the main documentary. And
I don't think I put that together. Weird. Sorry.
Yeah.
And I've watched it. But it's been a while since. Yeah, whatever.
But anyway, so the book, obviously, just like everything else, the book has way more detail than the actual miniseries documentary has. But both the documentary and the book, I think, provide enough evidence to say, without a doubt, there is some existence beyond physical death. And for me, just like the statement, do you believe in UFOs, is a fictitious statement. UFOs are real, they are documented. Do you believe in an afterlife? It's also a fictitious statement. There is an afterlife. How it exists is up for debate.
Right. And the definition of afterlife, because yes, there is something after life, even if it's nothing.
But also people want it to be universal. And I don't think for one second that all of our afterlives, even though they can intersect at certain points, have anything to do with one another.
Yeah. Well,
like in the same way that we're living in a place with two realities right now, right? Some people do not believe that COVID exists, right? And for some, it's a terrible tragedy of a thing. And these two realities are existing at the same time in our physical plane right now. So why couldn't, for lack of a better term, heaven or whatever plane just be just like this? Other people, everybody interacting in their own afterlife, but together. Are we all dead right now? And this is it.
Right.
So it kind of reminds me of the movie Ready Player One. I don't know if you've seen that or not, but I love that movie because
read the book too. The book is really good
because the pop culture references are just amazing. But it kind of reminds me of that. So like, you know, everybody logs into the same kind of virtual world. I can't remember what it's called now. Anyways, doesn't matter. Anyways, they all log into this virtual world, right, to experience and interact, but they're all interacting in their own way within that virtual world. They're all there together, but interactively separated. Is that
so? In that way, why should it be any different than this?
Yeah,
like why should the afterlife be constructed any differently?
And it could be, and then it could be.
I think it's what you rehearse. So, and people would call that belief, but I think that's just a stand-in word for thought rehearsal.
Yeah.
Because think about like what the Tibetan Book of the Dead and going through those lokas and everything. It's training. Like even my guru said, yoga is just teaching you how to die well.
Yeah. Really, most religion is. I mean,
So
even Buddhism, you know, without its gods and things like that, is about being okay with suffering at the end of the day.
I'm going to ask two very honest questions, and I'll commit to giving a very honest answer. You all, it's up to you. But first question is, do you believe there is something beyond physical death? That some part of you exists beyond physical death?
Yes.
Because it
Okay.
does. Your body's still in the ground, so yes.
Yeah. Question number 2. I totally blanked on question number 2.
Cool. It was that
You pulled
important.
a me.
Yeah, it'll come back to me.
But I mean, yes. I mean, if you want to get scientific about it, yes, matter cannot be destroyed. So therefore, every piece we exist no matter what.
Yep. You are made of dinosaur farts and sunbeams already. Like, it's true.
We need a t-shirt that says
It
that,
says
please.
dinosaur farts and something. Get on
Yep.
it, Stefan. Man, this is gonna bother me now because it was a profound question. I guess it was so profound I lost it.
And that's because you spent so much time trying to set it up to sound cool.
It-
Okay.
that you tossed it back into the thought pool. So now
Yeah,
you
it's
need to
it's
pull
back
it
in the
again.
yeah. You need to jump back in the thought pool. And by the way, Santosh, it was Haroon in the Sea of Stories. You
Haroon.
were-
I said Yaroon. I was
Oh,
close, but
oh,
thank you.
yeah, yeah.
I knew I didn't have the name right.
Fantastic book, by the way. So good.
All right.
Salman Rushdie, awesome dude. So you don't remember?
I don't. And it was
Okay.
it was a phenomenal question. But anyways, moving on a little bit. But I mean, I have seen a quote unquote ghost, spirit, whatever you want to call it.
Mhm.
I've taken a picture of one recently, which I'm still blown away by. You know, a lot of what we do is interacting with energies, right? Of thought forms, if you will, or some sort of intelligent energy. So, you know, to say that part of the argument, or one side of the argument, is that when we are interacting with those things, we are manifesting them from our own psyche. That they are a multiple personality of one of us, and we are bringing them into being as we interact with them. What are your all's thoughts on that?
At first, confusion, because I'm not sure I followed where you were going with it, but it seems very similar to like the self-preservation techniques of just ignore the ghost, because paying attention to them or malevolent energies will only add more fuel to the fire, so to speak.
Right.
Is that what you're kind of asking about?
No.
Or is that there are no such things as ghosts? It's only a projection of your subconscious.
That.
Okay.
I mean, the Philip experiment essentially proved that from their point of view, because they were able to manifest a spirit, and group elemental is exactly that from the Encyclopedic Psychic Dictionary. We
Rest in
are
peace, honey buns.
love you, June G. Blitzer. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't like black or white issues. I think there's too much gray everywhere. But yes, from one perspective, I absolutely think we can create a spirit, create a ghost or something in that. I
Or
mean,
cookie cutter shape that gets filled by another entity and assumes the form of what you were doing.
exactly. Yeah. Or, you know, I don't know.
My answer would be yes, but that's not true for all of them.
Right.
Just like a residual haunting can happen because of traumatic or crazy
Right.
things going on at a residence, right? That's not the same thing as an intelligent, like interface
Right.
kind of system. So I think that,
Right.
yes, what you're saying does happen, but does that happen? Does that then blanket cover all the other experiences? No.
Yeah,
So
it's like, just because I can cook a fried egg in a frying pan doesn't mean it can't cook on its own under the Phoenix sun out on the sidewalk.
In January,
No, it won't happen in January.
July.
Oh yeah, it will.
So it really bugs me that I can't remember that second question.
Well, it's
Um,
done.
I know it's gone. It'll be gone.
So, well,
forever.
let me get to the last one here that I wanted to talk about. Yours was Afterlife. I wanted to talk about panpsychism. So panpsychism is the theory that everything is conscious. So do inanimate objects have a mental life? That's part of the question. Consciousness has always been the hard problem of neuroscience. Essentially, there are two basic views of consciousness in the science world. There's materialism and dualism. Materialists say that the physical matter is all that there is. Consciousness emerges out of the physical brain. Dualists, on the other hand, argue that consciousness is something separate from matter. Neither viewpoint is totally satisfactory. Because materialism can't explain how matter produces consciousness, and dualism can't explain how immaterial consciousness interacts with matter. So this is where panpsychism comes in, which is a new theory that provides not a new theory, just a new term that provides a way around this. It is the idea that consciousness did not evolve to meet some survival need, nor did it emerge when brains became sufficiently complex. Instead, it is inherent in all matter already. Everything has consciousness.
Has consciousness is different than is consciousness as well, like, because also, like, in God, I want to pull out this book and talk yoga with you all about reading that, about how if everything is, it's hard for us to conceive that which does not exist, because every conception in your brain then is something that exists, right? And that people are familiar with the concepts of like elements making us up. Like back in the day, we were made up of earth, air, fire, and water and everything. Well, one of like the sixth element could be called consciousness in yoga. So it's, you know,
which could be similar to the fifth element in Wicca, which is spirit, right? You know,
well, you have, I mean, the great Shiva and Shakti, you've got consciousness and energy. Like, so it's fundamental for the existence of anything. So but that doesn't mean that this soda can is thinking badly of me as I pop its top and lick the rim.
So can you, well, number one, is this a lot like the Force?
That didn't offend that cup,
right?
Huh?
So
the Force,
the Force lives in everything. So
well, that's energy. It's just another term for energy, right? Or no.
Well, energy isn't all that is. Like, so see, like that in the dualistic nature of like Samkhya philosophy, that consciousness is the thing at the end of the day.
Energy, though, like, implies to me like I don't know, energy to me is just so very, I don't know how to say this. I can't put my words together, but bland is the word that.
Sure, it's a generic term,
right? So
it's become genericized.
The thing that, you know, not the conundrum, but the query here tends that you start to think about. It's like at the end of the day, we are made up of these particles, and that the smaller you get, the larger the space between things are, right? So what exists between that space? What's the smallest thing we can think of? Is what, an atom? Is that the smallest?
No, that's nowhere near the smallest anymore. Like,
what is the smallest?
Well, in terms of smallest, like we're talking about like quantum theory and things like that, like quarks and gluons and things like way down there. So they're all made up of different things, like protons made up of colors, like, well, they're color phases.
So it's like what is the initial building block, right? What is, well,
now you're talking string, well, where string theory comes in, right? That it's vibrating things.
But let's just stick with atoms. Like, we know for most people an atom is the smallest thing, right? So I'm just going to go there so we don't talk about quantum theory. But it is that smallest piece of the building block, does that have consciousness? Is that
is if that vibration fundamentally?
Is it if on its own, does it have consciousness?
So are you saying that do the tigers that make up Voltron, are they operating and Voltron is operating, right? It's the same thing, right? The atoms, each individual atom has its own thing going on, but they come together to make a rock, a table,
right?
Whatever the case may be.
And then
our species love to personify things,
right?
Like, we love to attribute human qualities to that, like in thinking about consciousness in ours. And that's silly, because think about the entirety of our galactic brethren. Consciousness is surely going to have to come in different forms than just the human one.
Right.
But does this can have its own consciousness? No, but is it made up of consciousness because it can be thought of, and so it exists?
So people who have done TK telekinesis have
TK telekinesis.
Well, I did the.
Is that a brand?
I did the abbreviation and then the full word just for.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
I might refer to it as TK later. So
like the ATM machine.
Oh, it hurts.
So people who have done TK successfully. One of the thoughts that I had, and I haven't done TK successfully, so I don't know anybody who
make it sound like a drug.
Who has done it successfully, so I can't ask them. But is it a relationship between you and whatever you're expecting to move or do whatever? Is it are you asking the rock to move, and is the rock saying yes?
Or you just, there is no difference between you and the rock in the first place.
There is no
so
spoon,
you're just moving yourself.
There is no spoon. Is it just you just connecting with its consciousness and able to move? And again, the other question, since we talked about it's hard for us to see things, you reminded me, because I talked about what's in between the spaces between the atoms, right? Like what's in between there. But I remember I was in like third grade. It was something really young, because my teacher was like, had a conference with my dad about, I was asking some real deep questions in third grade. I had asked the teacher, she said, ask me anything. She was a substitute teacher. She said, ask me anything. And I said, what does nothing look like? Because I know it doesn't look like clouds on Never Ending Story. So I was like, I can't comprehend what nothing looks like.
Yeah, you can't comprehend non-existence, because the very act of thinking of it makes it exist within.
And she did well. She tried to explain. She said, all right, I want you to look down. I want you to imagine the floor is gone, then take away the ground. She kept taking away in layers what's left. And I was like, I don't know. I don't even remember what I thought. But yeah, what is nothing? Is nothing a substance?
Or is nothing nothing?
And then it does nothing. Is nothing conscious?
Well, what I'm saying is there nothing, or is there always something?
Is nothing something?
Non-existence, and each of these things in our head are created and thus exist in a way, if only in the consciousness of us.
Is nothing? Yeah, is nothing something? And that's what I mean. It's like the space.
Nothing is something as soon as you think of it.
Right.
Yeah.
So think about it this way: what is in between you and your chair?
My butt.
My ass. Yeah, that was my answer.
Okay, I'll
but you want to be like, monitor. Molecules aren't really touching.
The monitor. That's what I was thinking. Yeah. What's between me?
You and the monitor. Okay, so
air,
which is made up of
dust,
ether, quintessence,
all kinds of things.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like,
but what's in between?
Isn't empty either.
What's in between those, right? And that's what I'm saying. That's when we start having, I guess, look into quantum theory. It's like, how far?
Well, also
does it break down.
We have not figured out, as a species, we have not figured out how to measure or identify dark matter and dark energy.
Yeah, I was going to bring up dark matter and antimatter for sure, but I figured that's a whole nother episode.
You didn't want to go down the quantum hole.
I know. I'm already like.
Plus, I fully know and acknowledge and admit that my explanation of scientific thought is lacking.
Well,
I want to say
my own understanding.
Whole nother is proper terminology. Okay.
I use that all the time.
Use it all the time.
Is it until or just till?
Depends on if you're getting cash out of it.
If I'm going to see you,
that's good.
I'm not going to see you till later. Is that a word, or is it I'm not going to see you until later?
They both work. It depends on how you're using it.
You don't say the apostrophe that's there grammatically to show you that the un would have been there.
7-Up is the uncola.
Y'all.
Coca-Cola.
Anyways,
you want to sponsor us?
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. Coca-Cola.
I love Coke Zero so much. Look.
Heck yeah.
Now we can't monetize this episode. Thanks, Stefan. I'm gonna have to put a banner over that.
saying we are not sponsored, but you just had to put up a notice at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
We are not sponsored by Coca-Cola Zero. However, we would love to be sponsored by Coca-Cola Zero Sugar.
You can just send Stefan free Coca-Cola.
As part of
Yes.
Fearscape, are we officially sponsored by Manscaped?
We are the entire network,
entire
Fearscape
network.
Media Network. Go to manscaped.com and enter the coupon code Fearscape for 20% off and free shipping on your next order for Manscaped. Are your balls hairy?
Yeah.
What
Is your astral stew hairy?
are you wanting to see what's between the hair on your balls and your balls?
So
Get
Stefan,
the lawnmower 4.0 and trim that and let us know what's there.
yeah. So Stefan, what would you say then?
Into the unknown.
Smooth as Adams.
Smooth as Adams. Yep.
What?
So
Does Adam have a smooth stack?
No, ATOM.
you know what they
I was
say?
like, why
can't-
is Adam so smooth?
You can't trust Adams.
Was Adam in the Bible? Did he have hair originally?
They make up everything. Sorry.
Mm,
Did it? So was God like hairy guy, or was he like,
hairy guy.
I'm gonna make you smooth first and see what happens? Oh, you're cold. Let's give you some hair. and if Eve hadn't been created, was Adam created with a penis? And if so, what was its function before?
Well, you had to urinate.
Or
So yeah, I
Eve?
was like, you don't think there was peeing in the Garden of Eden?
I
Was there
know.
no I mean,
But
but-
there's nothing in the Bible in Genesis that says once he made Eve, he changed up his ball pattern and made it shoot jism as well as urine. Or did he just not
Josh,
have balls? He
I'm sorry for
only
saying
had.
we got it.
Christian,
he
'cause
only-
Stefan is fully like taking us into the garden.
I gotta
know
talk
some
to the theologian about this. Did he even have testicles? Because the pee doesn't come from the testicles. So was it
Well-
just a urination tube before
Wouldn't it make
Eve?
more sense if the snake was a hairy snake that tempted the fall?
Yes. And God was like, oh, well, if she's got to have eggs in her belly, I'm going to give you 2 of them that are going to rest underneath you.
Something to play with when you're bored.
Two eggs. I don't know where you're following there.
They're called testicles, Josh.
Gonads.
They're not eggs.
I know.
They're gonads.
But
Just
you
like
said
a
if
Reese.
she's gonna have eggs in your belly, which
I'm
by
going to
the
give
way-
you 2 that
which by the way, they're not in her belly. Come on.
How do
You're gonna use the term jism and then say in her belly.
use the term?
What is
we
this?
end the show. I got to go read the Bible.
And no, don't make that a euphemism. I gotta go read the
Read
Bible.
I'm serious. I got to talk to the theologian. I got some real questions to ask.
You should just go to church on Sunday.
No,
Just ask-
that's why I
just
keep
ask
getting
those
kicked
questions.
out because
Like,
I
you-
asked these questions.
You ask if they had belly buttons. Stefan is more wondering if they were hairy or not. And I
Yeah.
love
I
this.
know people aren't there, and I'm wondering, did he have balls first? That's the
Well,
question.
You know what's really cool? You know why your fingers get kind of like they call pruning when they get wet?
Mhm.
It's for grip.
For better
Yeah.
traction.
Yeah, it's pretty cool
Why'd you have to do that?
Yeah.
because you're gripping.
Ugh, stop talking about my eggs.
All right. Thanks everybody for tuning in for for what was a crazy and interesting stew conversation.
It
All of our-
was.
all of our Stuvians out there.
Stuvians, I love that. Go to fearscapemedia.com. Check out all the other shows, things that we have, podcasts and the like. There's a lot of cool stuff. And seriously, go to manscaped.com. Put in
Favorite balls,
Fearscape.
send us a pic.
No,
Send those to Santosh.
Santosh.
I hate scrotums.
Even more of a reason to send them to Santosh.
I have a hatred of scrotums. No.
Thank you
right.
guys.
Yep. Thanks everybody. And
Thank you.
catch you on the flip side.
Said it weird.
Uh,
Dunzo.